Presentation I would like to show you, because I think you are not experts on water. So first I would like to show you what is the status of the water resources in the world of water. I've been working in FAO for the last 20 years, so a lot of time. And when I started, water was of course a very important issue, especially for agriculture. But I've seen during all these years that it's becoming more a political aspect, no? A political issue. So now water is becoming a very, very important resource for economic development. And you see that politicians are more and more interested in the water resources. So we need really to understand what are the issues. And I think this kind of initiatives in the civil societies, is also very, very important to understand what is the relation of the human beings with water, how we use water, and also we can ask to the politicians and in the political fora how we want water to be used and managed. So I can. You don't have a no.
No, may I do it? I can do it.
Yeah.
Tell me go.
So yes, I mean, something very simple, but it's very important to know is that the water we have a constant amount of water. Water is moving around the hydrological cycle, but we have the same amount of water in the earth. It's not changing, right? So we see when we look the world, no, the earth from outside, we see that is the blue planet, we call it, no. But 97% of all this water is salty, so that means that we cannot use it for drinking, or we cannot use it for economic purposes, right? And then it's only the 3% that we can use for our economic development. Of these 3%, almost all the water, 68%, is in the glaciers. And this is why now we are talking about climate change and also the melting in snow. And this is very, let's say, very critical, because ice is melting, and that means that all our storage of water, we are losing that storage of water. That means that this water is going to the sea, and we will not be able to use it anymore. And then also another important issue to understand is that 30% of our water, fresh water, is groundwater. So the soil is also a big storage of water. And it's important also that soil is managed, that there is not a degradation of the soil, because otherwise we cannot storage water in the soil. And it's really a big storage that we need to take care of that, because otherwise we are gonna lose all the water that we can extract for food or for other economic activities. And then only 1.2% is surface water. So it's the water that is in the lakes and that we can usually very easily extract for economic activities. So this is just for you to understand that even if water may seem very abundant, I think, well, with Alexander, he told me that in Naples there is a lot of water. But I mean, we need also to be conscious that it's not like this, that water is limited. Population is growing at an exponential rate, and that means that there is less and less water for the human beings. And this is just, I mean, if you compare the volume of the earth with the first bubble, which is all the water in the earth, including the saline water. This is, this a big difference between the volume of the earth and all the water which is in the earth. And this little tiny bubble will be just the fresh water that we can use. So as you can see, even if in principle water may seem like very abundant, it's not the case. Yes. So, and then water, of course, is not well distributed among all the countries. So almost all resources, 46% of the water resources are in the America. In Latin America is a region which has almost 50% of the water resources. It doesn't mean that in Latin America they have no problems with water, because we see also that there are parts which are very, very dry, in which they are suffering from water scarcity. And then we have Africa, and especially North Africa, which only has the 9% of the water resources.
And Europe?
And Europe is 9% of the water resources. So I don't know if you know about the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. So this is like all the countries together decided, let's have common objectives for development. And that's very unique, even if there have been many critics about the SDG agenda, that is all politics and all that. But indeed, you also have to think that countries get together to decide what will be the objectives for which we will feel, that this is prosperity and this is where we want to go. And the objective number 6 is on water. So that means that water is a very important issue for all countries in the world. And also the interesting thing also of the Sustainable Development Goals compared to other frameworks for development in the past is that it refers to all countries, to develop and developing countries. And that's also very new, no? It's an agenda for everyone. And then you have also SDG 11, which is on sustainable cities. Another interesting issue of the Sustainable Development Goals is that all goals are connected. So we know that water is connected to hunger, which is SDG number 2, is connected to poverty, is connected with cities. So that's also, an interesting, a new, an innovative vision of how we want development. It has to be integrated. It's not only one thing, but a lot of things together. So the first, maybe one important aspect of development is the access to drinking water. For us, this is what we call a human right. So that means that the countries are obliged, they have the obligation to provide access to drinking water to people. But instead, there is still 2 billion people which lacks safe water at home. They don't have access to drinking water. And if you can see, this is a map that shows what is the percentage of people using drinking water services. And you can see that it's mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, where people, they don't have still access to potable drinking water. And this is a map which shows what is the level of water scarcity in the world. So when we say water scarcity, it means that we compare the demand with the availability. So it doesn't mean you can have very little water, but if you don't use it, there is no scarcity. So you have to compare the amount of water that is extracted with the availability of water. And in the United Nations, we have many tasks, but one of the tasks is to provide information to the world on what is the status of the different, what is the status of hunger, but also what is the status of water resources. And at FAO, we have studied what is the status of water scarcity. And as you can see, in all the countries in North Africa and Middle East, and also Central Asia and East Asia, you can see that there are all red or yellow, and that means that they have critical problems of water scarcity. That is, that they are requiring a lot of water, but they don't have enough water availability. In Africa, as you can see, it's all blue. That means that there is no stress, and indeed that also shows that there is no enough development. So they are not using the water that they have because there is no irrigation, for instance, or as we have seen, there is no access to water for drinking purposes. So there is no much infrastructure, and this is why also there is no stress. It's not because they have a lot of water. So why agriculture is very important when we talk about water? And it's important because agriculture extracts 72% of the freshwater resources. So compared to industry extract 15%, and the cities, the municipal services extract 13%. So as you see, agriculture is by far the sector which extracts more water. So the way we use water in the agricultural sector is very important to ensure that there will be a sustainable use of water resources. This is also how the evolution of water withdrawals, and you can see that in 1960 there been an exponential increase of the water resources, and it's always in blue the agricultural sector, which has grown a lot, and then also the industrial and the municipal is the lowest of the three. So the water is also very linked to food insecurity, and as I said, at FAO, our main objective is to eradicate hunger. So this is the map that shows where we have the hot spots of hunger, where there is more hunger in the world. And you see that it's mainly in Africa and also in some countries in Asia and also in South America, right? So we see that there are countries in which we have both water scarcity and hunger, and this is a real problem because we know that to grow crops and to make agriculture productive, we need a lot of water. No? As I showed you before, is 72% of all the water withdrawals are extracted by agriculture. So this is really a very critical. That will be a very critical issue. It's a very critical issue now, but in the future, with population growth, will be even more. More important because there is less water and then more need to produce food. Next one. This is just to show that from all people suffering from hunger are basically mainly in Asia and in Africa. Yeah, so it's not only about the scarcity of water, but also the pollution of water. And there is also a huge problem of pollution of the water resources. And a lot of the water is discharged without any treatment. I think it's a level of 80% of the water which is used is discharged without any treatment. And this is polluting all the ecosystems and all the water bodies that then we need to use for agriculture, but also for other uses. So this the pollution is one of the main causes of death in the world. The first one is atmospheric pollution, is causing a lot of death, according to the Lancet Commission. But also the water pollution is the second. Is the second issue which is causing also death in the world, and this is affecting mainly kids and women, because they are the ones that collects the water and also cook the food with this polluted water, and these are the ones that are suffering more from this problem of the water pollution. So this is also a map that shows what is the percentage of the water bodies that are which has good quality. And we see with the different colors, if it's blue, that means that it's a good quality, also green, and then if it's red and orange, that means that there is no very good quality. So in general, except in Europe, except Germany, which has an orange color, that means that in the other parts there is more or less good quality of the water bodies. And then in Latin America, Argentina and Peru has also problems, and then also the United States and Mexico. But you see also in the map that there are a lot of countries in gray, and that means that we have no data. So a lot of countries are not reporting on what is the status of water quality in their countries, and this is an important a very critical problem, because if we don't have the data, we don't know exactly what is going on, right? And we see that for those working on the water. On the water field, we see that countries are more and more reluctant to share data on water, because, as I said, it's becoming more a political issue than even a human rights. Yeah.
Why Spain and Italy are both not sharing data?
I don't know. So this is all these reporting mechanism is voluntary. It's not mandatory, and this is linked to the SDGs. So you are not obliged to share your data.
Who is your contact in Italy?
In Italy is the statistical Istat, national office.
Why the United States is characterized by this bad water?
By orange. So that means that the water quality in general, this is an average. In general, is not good quality. It's bad, yeah. But this is also, we need to look at this so also critically, because this is an average. So probably there will be areas in which it's very much polluted and other areas which is less polluted. But in general, as an average, what they have reported show that the quality of the water bodies is not very good. Mm-hmm. And this is, even if we don't have data, with the data we have established this map with a model where we can see the risk of water quality, and we see that in all Europe and North Africa, the risk of the water quality pollution is really very high. So this is also an important issue that is also, I think, relevant to not only to the rural areas, but also to cities. So, and then, as I said, the agricultural sector is the sector which is extracting more water resources, 70%, so it's an incredible figure, and it's also because of the victim of the water pollution, because all the fertilizers, with increasing of the productivity of the agriculture is mainly due to the use of fertilizers, pesticides, and this also pollutes water. And it's also an important issue in which FAO is working to make agriculture more sustainable, so there is less pollution of the water.
I'm sorry, could you just go back to
yes.
looking at the other map?
This thing, yeah. Okay.
This is just the data of the worst quality.
No, that is the areas where there is a good quality. So that means that in the United States, only from 20 to 40% of the water bodies have good quality. The rest, the lakes or just the water bodies. And this is the percentage which has good quality. So when it's blue, is that all water bodies are good quality, like in the UK or Canada, no? What they have, or Chile. Yeah, this is what they report, no? Yeah?
Finland, the lakes in Finland.
Yeah. So, we have Madagascar has, maybe the double light, yeah. Yeah. So, but there is a lot of gray, so.
But in Costa Rica, they have regulations.
Of course, yeah. It also depends. Also, the European Union, they have a very strict legislation on water treatments and discharge of water. But even though you see Germany is a big country which has an orange. So yeah, so we see that it's not only that there is no water, but that the water is polluted. And the water, if the water is polluted, you know, in Vesuvio, because they have tomato production, this water is going to come to Naples, and then, well, it's also expensive not to treat water and then to use it for other purposes. Yes?
Yeah, is the water like, so does the map show the quality of the groundwater or the quality of the water which comes out of the
It's surface water.
surface?
Yeah, and it depends. Mainly in cities, water comes from the groundwater, but it depends on the areas. In some, I think in Naples you have, it's also groundwater, no, where you take the water. But this refers only to surface water.
So lakes, rivers.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then
Like plastic contamination.
yes, that's also another indicator. Mm-hmm. So this is the situation now, in which the United Nations, make efforts to collect the data and show, to do some reports on what is the status of water resources and what are the main drivers and all that. And what is happening is also that population is growing, so that means that we have less land and less water for each person, and this is also critical in developing countries in the south, because they have in Africa and Asia, this is where population is growing the most, and where they have less infrastructure and sometimes also less water. We will have to, according to the projections, we will have to produce 50% more food in 2050. So that also requires a lot of water, because as we have seen, agriculture extracts most of the fresh water which is available. So that means that we will need more water for food production. And also with climate change, we have seen that the weather is not so, we don't know when it's going to rain anymore. There are droughts, so probably we will need to require more irrigation, and that requires a lot of water. So we need to prepare for that. And we have seen that in many countries and in many regions, especially in the Middle East and North Africa, where there is also poverty, they are having problems of how to produce food and also how to bring food to the people and also to the cities, right? Next one. So I said, this is all about agriculture, that maybe you are not much interested, because this is not the issue of your work, which you work more on cities. But indeed, we have seen that in 2011, the percentage of the population living in the urban areas have increased compared to rural areas. And what is projected is that in 2050, almost 70% of the population is going to live in cities, right? And you see that even in the rural areas, the population is gonna decrease. Next one. So we've seen, if this is the map that shows the percentage of the population which lives in cities. So this is in 1950, 2018, I think, I don't know, and this is 2050, the projection. And in dark blue is where you have more percentage of the population living in cities, and light blue is where you have less percentage of the population. So you see that in 1950, so there were a lot of areas with light blue, and in 2018, this is growing dramatically, and then in 2050, it's almost all very dark blue. So this is what we call in the United Nations is a mega trend. Climate change is a mega trend. These are trends that are becoming are very, very rapid, very accelerated, and we need to pay attention, because that is going to change the way we live and the sustainability also of the planet. So what is happening in terms of food production with this urbanization is it can have positive and negative consequences of the urbanization. First of all, we see that it's changing the diets. So people living in cities eat very different from people living in the rural areas. So we've seen that there is a problem of hunger, but now also in FAO we are worried about the obesity problems that is happening also in many cities. Is because there is it's more easy for people to get very cheap food, fast food, which is very energetic but very low quality. So this is another problem that is also linked to the trend of the urbanization. But I mean, the cities are also a good market for farmers or for farmers in the peri-urban area to sell their products. So if cities are also a center of innovation, and also it can also be an opportunity to develop the food chains, right? So we need to balance the negative with the positive, and make the cities a good place where food can be available at a good cost, so people can afford to eat in a very healthy way. At FAO, when we talk about planning, what we say now is that there is no more. I mean, it's not practical to talk separately about the rural and the urban area, so like a divide, and we need to see like both areas as a continuum, right? As the rural areas or peri-urban areas also linked to the cities, and planners and urbanists should look at this as a continuum, no as a divide. No, now in all the governments in the countries, no, you have all governed by administrations which look at your city or at your region, but you don't look at as this continuum, and that can create a lot of problems. Also, another consequence of the urbanization is that prices of the land are increasing, so that makes that many small farmers are obliged to leave to other parts because there is a lot of speculation of even some people are sent away because now you can build other kind of you can build apartments which are more profitable in economic terms, right? So this is how this is changing, and how food systems are going to change also with the urbanization. So at FAO, we have a number of initiatives because, as I said, we were focusing more on the rural areas, but now we see that we need to focus our work in the cities also to be able to provide to people living in the cities with healthy food, right? And also urbanization is bringing a lot of pressure on natural resources such as water. So we are now promoting all the practices of circular economy. That means that reutilizing what we have and not wasting more water or more food. No, cities are also a space where a lot of food is waste, and when you waste food, you waste also water and soil and natural resources, right? So all this approach in which we should use the same water one and another no, with the water treatment and use the water of the cities, the wastewater in agriculture, for instance. This is what FAO is promoting to make also more sustainable, to have a more sustainable use of natural resources in this context. Yeah, next one. This is about treating wastewater. Yeah. So this is just an example of how circular economy can be applied in water. So the water used in the cities can be treated and then used in agricultural fields in the peri-urban areas. No? So that's an example that many cities are already doing, but still the percentage of wastewater used is very low. It's around 15% around the world, so it's very low compared to the potential of reusing wastewater for agriculture or for gardens or other uses, right? So one of the initiatives that FAO is implementing is the Green Cities Initiative, which promotes to have green spaces inside the cities. And these green spaces can be also agricultural fields. And for that, of course, you need a lot of political support because I said, no, there is a lot of speculation. The soil in the cities is very high priced, so it's very difficult. So you really need the political support to have these spaces. And FAO is promoting that in the different meetings and in the forum to get the attention also of the politicians to say, okay, it's important to make cities also a good space also for people to live healthy. And then there is a lot of difference between the cities in the north, which has been the result, this urbanization process has been the result of economic growth, that people migrating from the rural areas to the cities because there has been this economic growth, right? But in many cities in the south, this migration is becoming, the driver is more the poverty than economic growth. People cannot survive in the rural areas, so they go to the cities because they have more opportunities, but there is no planning for this movement. So people are establishing around the main center, where in places where there are no the basic services, such as, for instance, drinking water. And this disorganized establishment of people around the cities is creating more problems. And so we need to make that these people have a very, let's say, healthy living conditions where they can have clean water, but also nutritious food, right? So this is the purpose of this initiative promoted by FAO, the Green Cities Initiative.
It is promoted by what kind of initiatives the FAO does? For instance, I'm thinking the eastern side of the city, which used to be called the Campania Felix by the Romans, and which is today, in particular in the metropolitan area of Napoli, there are still some bits of agriculture, but they are slowly disappearing, all of them. And actually, the city is also thinking to develop the new city in this eastern area, and without having the perception of the importance of this green and agricultural land in the city. So I was thinking, what kind of initiative does the FAO do to highlight this importance with administrations?
I will explain some examples of very concrete examples of how FAO is promoting urban or peri-urban agriculture in cities, and I think very close to what you say. There is you can pass. There is a very interesting and very nice program which is called GIAS, the Globally Important Agricultural Heritage System, and this is sort of the UNESCO Heritage Program in which FAO, together with civil society but also local governments, identify agricultural systems which have historical and old value and has also been proven as a very sustainable and resilient farming system, which provides in a sustainable way, provide food for people, and has also the support of the community. And so I will present some cases which are agricultural systems which are inside the city, which FAO is giving like a stamp saying, okay, this is a GIAS, so that means that also serves to this place and to the farmers to valorize the production, and also to the governments to maintain, because there is a lot of also of traditional knowledge, which is very important, because now we see there are climate change and all that, and we have moved maybe to more modern food production techniques, and we sometimes forget the traditional knowledge that is very important, like or old seeds that were used in the past and were resistant to drought. No? So all these important agricultural heritage systems is also a way to conserve this traditional knowledge, but also this biodiversity, which is also very, very important, no? for how to adapt to the new conditions that we have seen. No? So one of the examples that has been that got this stamp of the GIAS is in Spain, in Valencia, which is a city that I think is very similar to Naples. No, it's also a Mediterranean city, and it has also a lot of pressure because it's a very touristic city. No, it has a lot of pressure, has industry, so has also all this speculation of the land. And what is very particular, if we can pass to the next, what is very particular of the Valencia city is that inside the city there is a traditional irrigation system, which is what we say that Huerta de Valencia is the horticulture land, which is really, I mean, you can see these are the buildings of the city, and then the horticulture land are inside the city. And then, well, as you can imagine, there is a lot of pressure, right, of these places because of urbanization, but also, well, also because of the lack of water. Because Valencia is also a city that needs a lot of water for tourism and for other economic activities, and the agriculture is taking a lot of this water. So this is very interesting because we have the city, we have the agriculture, which is really inside the city, and then also we have a natural park. So we have the environment. We have the three, the city, the agriculture, and then the environment, which also requires water, because we should not forget that sometimes we take water also from the environment. So fish, needs to survive. All the animals also need the water to survive and for the ecosystems to be maintained. So it's a very interesting case study, which is has a lot of pressure. As I say, it's not perfect. They have a lot of problems, but the government of Valencia, together with the farmers and together with the civil society, there is a lot of movement, and a very strong movement also of the civil society, have maintained these agricultural systems. And what they have is a sort of canals, which are very old, from the 13th, how do you say, century, and that they have improved. Of course, these are not the originals, but what you were saying about Naples, they have, they still use this old infrastructure that they have maintained, they have repaired, and still is used to irrigate all the horticultural lands in Valencia. They have oranges, but also they have a lot of biodiversity of different crops. And it's an interesting case study because they've been able to share the water between the city and also the farmers. So this is the landscape of the horticultural lands in Valencia. They have also traditional houses, and these are all the canals that are very, very old, and that they still use it for the irrigation. Next one. From the river Turia, they have a river and they take the water from the river. And they have agriculture, but also, as I said, when they arrive to the natural park, they also grow rice. And this is a very particular rice with a variety that then they use for the paella that I'm sure you all know. The paella is a dish which is originally from Valencia, and they have this, arriving to this wetland, which is called the Albufera, where they grow the rice. And then they also have fishing in this freshwater lake, where they also use the water that comes from the irrigated lands, through all the canals until they reach this natural park. So the water has to be also good quality, and they take care, the farmers take care, that the management of the water is good, that it is sustainable, so they don't pollute the water, because they know that the rice growers need to use this water, and also they have to maintain the ecosystem in the lake. So the fishers can also make use of the water. So I think this is a very interesting case study in which we see how water can be shared among the city, the farmers, the fishermen, and also the environment. But I mean, it's not easy. It seems like it's perfect. They have conflicts, but I think the social community, they want to maintain this system because it's also their tradition. And that also allows to the producers to sell directly into also a very old market that they have in Valencia, that they call the tira de contar, where farmers can sell directly to, in the market. So there is also, they gain more money, they don't have to depend. Yeah. And that's also, very much valued by the people in Valencia, to be able to buy directly from the producers and have this horticulture and good quality food, that is produced. And it's not only about how they use water, but how you govern water, right? Because there are always conflicts, especially when there is drought and there is no water. There are a lot of conflicts, and they have a very specific and very interesting way and very historical way of managing water, which is called the water tribunal, and it's a traditional system in which they have, representatives from the farmers' community, and they manage their conflicts internally. And even the government has recognized this traditional system of sharing water. And when I was there also, when that was, when FAO gave the certification of GIAS, and I asked, well, everyone follows the rules of the water tribunal? And they say yes, everyone, because otherwise it's socially it's very badly seen. Even if you think that you are right, it's very badly seen that you don't follow what is traditionally has been, ruled by the judge, all this tribunal. They told me that there was just one problem with a German supermarket, a German company of supermarkets, that they destroyed a canal. And apparently they complained to them, and they said, well, what is this? A group of people we don't want to follow. And then there was such a great pressure, from the community, that finally this big company of supermarkets had to go, because they have meetings once a month in the main square of Valencia, and it's public. It's now more a touristic also attraction, but it's a real thing also. So this guy from Germany had to come to the tribunal, and then finally was settled, and they repaired the canal. So this is just to show you how this traditional way of managing natural resources are also very valid and may work in many parts of the world. That sometimes we change traditional, let's say, ways for more modern. What you say about the water canals, and sometimes these are more useful than going to to a very formal trial, which is even longer. So this was the example of Valencia, but there are also other examples. For instance, in Mexico City, which is a mega city, as you know, there are more than 10 million people, and they have critical problems of water. I think I read now in the journal that in June there was a cut of water, because even if the city of Mexico is founded in a lake area, the way the water has been managed and all the problems also with the pollution has made that people, they don't have access to drinking water. Even if they have access to the infrastructure, they cannot drink the water because it's very polluted. And I think Mexico City is the city which consumes the Mexico country itself is the country in which there is more consumption of water, mineral water in bottles, right? So in Mexico, you have both rich and but also very poor people that for them it's very difficult to afford to buy the bottled water. And this is a real problem. But they have this system which is called chinampas, which is also in the middle of the city, and it's also a very old system which comes from the Azteca period, right? That they have this kind of island in the middle of the lake where they have trees and also horticulture, but also basic staple food like maize. And they still continue to use it, and you know it's also very useful because they can sell the production directly in the market of City of Mexico. But they also say that thanks to the chinampas, the temperature of the City of Mexico is 2 degrees lower than it should be without these green areas, right? Because green areas also are important when you have a lot of heat because it lowers the temperature. So this is another example in which FAO, has a certificate that this is a very interesting and also an old system that we need to conserve. Of course, compared to Valencia, this is a system which really has a lot of threat. We don't know if that is going to survive because Mexico City is really, it's a very complex context in which, these kind of initiatives are less, less successful than you have less the political will, of maintaining that. So this is how this island and built. That there is also a traditional knowledge of how to build these islands in the middle of the lake, and you can grow maize and also other horticulture products. This is the landscape of the chinampas. This is the lake, and these are the islands where the food production is grown. And the trees are very useful because they stop the wind and also stabilize the soil, right? So because this is artificial soil, let's say. But now since in Mexico City they are pumping a lot of water from the underground, they've seen that how these islands are coming down, and there is a risk that they can break and making this not very sustainable. And I don't know if we have more time, but there is another example. I don't want to bore you. So this is another example of in the Middle East. This is in El Ain, which is in United Arab Emirates, which is a completely different setting. So in the Middle East, the date palm are the, let's say, where all the varieties of date palms are grown. And traditionally, in these countries, they have grown this date palm in the oasis ecosystems. And the oasis ecosystems are also the home of a lot of biodiversity, because it's not only the date palms, but also they have different levels. So there is the grow level in which they grow also horticulture or barley. And then there are the date palms that also shade all the surface, so there is a lot of evaporation, and they can conserve water. And still, they have also these old canals from where they can irrigate and use the water for the crops. And this is also a very old system. Of course, in the United Arab Emirates, they have a lot of money. So this is more artificial in the sense that they don't need that for their own food, because they import all the food. But I think this is also very nice. In this city of El Ain, they have done this big garden in which it's not only a green area, but also they conserve all the varieties and all the seeds and all these date palms that traditionally for them was a very important crop.
Because they're pumping up the water.
So I would like to show you, because this is very similar to what we call mid-Naples. They have a flash, which is a traditional system of taking the water. So the water comes from a very shallow aquifer, also from the mountains, and they have this, it's all by gravity, they don't need energy. So they have these kind of tube wells in which the water flows by gravity, and then it goes, to the oases and to the fields. So they have this whole infrastructure that was lost long time ago, but now the government is refurbishing everything and maintaining this infrastructure.
Also, the project is old.
This project
This infrastructure is old.
It's very, very old. It's very old, and it's been used traditionally, but they don't need it anymore because they have the oil, as you know. So they don't need really. So there is a lot of money also here to rebuild all this infrastructure, but it's the interest of the government to to recover all this traditional knowledge that was lost. And this is helping. These are the tube wells. And it's also helping the city. This El Ain is in the middle of the desert. No, it's also helping to maintain these oasis ecosystems, which also is more fresh is more air fresh for the cities, and it's also an attraction for the tourism, right? Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I'm talking too much. I don't want to, I have other examples, but it's okay, can I continue? This is not FAO, yeah.
You don't want to meet?
Diana.
You don't want to meet her?
Yes.
Okay.
We have soon another
10 minutes.
one.
Okay.
The last one.
So this is not FAO. This has been done by a group of architects on urbanism from the Netherlands. Well, this is just to show you that in Chennai, which is the 6th more populated city in India, they have also this traditional infrastructure, which they call temple tanks, and it's just, they don't use this water, it's just to recharge the groundwater. Here they have the monsoon where it rains a lot, and then they have the dry period in which it doesn't rain, so they don't have water. So this is a way to recharge the aquifer so they can pump the water during the dry season, let's say. This is a traditional, and then if you can, this is just how, when it doesn't rain, the water table is 5-10 meters, but with this infrastructure, the water percolates in the water table, so the water table goes up and they can pump water during the dry season. So this is what we call the nature-based solutions, because you don't need a lot of infrastructure, a lot of technology or energy, but just with these simple solutions, you can improve also how cities can make use of the water, right?
Nature-based
solutions. Yeah, this is another approach that FAO is promoting. So you can pass. This is the same. So you see that here the water table, thanks to this. Water. Yeah, you can extract the water with less energy because the water table is up to, and these just small containers that are traditional in India, that helps a lot. And then during the dry season, you need to clean that, because there is silting, but they clean it, and then again. And this is what I was mentioning. This has been done by a group of urbanism from the Netherlands, which is US. And in India also, in a school of India, they have they have built, that was a very degraded area, and they have built this system of filtering water through septic tanks. So the wastewater which is produced in the compound is then filtered through 2 septic tanks, and then the water is used to irrigate, the garden. And I think it's a very nice project, very also not very costly, and you don't need a lot of energy. So let's say filtering through these reactors, but also they build a sort of artificial wetland where the water is filtered, and it can be used to irrigate the garden in the area, in the school. So this is just the reactor, how the water passes from one place to the other. So the solids, the solids, how do you say, sediments, and the water. It's a natural way to clean water. Of course, you cannot get rid of the pathogens, so you cannot use that for food, because it may have pathogens like Escherichia coli and all that, but you can use it for irrigating this garden, no? And this is, that was apparently a very degraded space in which now you see all this green with changes. And this is how the water, they have analyzed the water, how after, this is the water non-treated, and then it passed through the different stages, and how the water is more clean. And the purpose is to replicate this project in this city of Chennai in India. And they got a lot of funding from the government of the Netherlands to replicate that, because apparently it was very successful. So that's also another example in which you can use these nature-based solutions, which are not very costly infrastructure, to improve the quality of life in the cities. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Questions?
Well, we are in Rome, so anything you need, we are very close. I don't know if you live here in Naples, but please come to visit us. I work in water, but then there is also a program which is called Food for the Cities, which there is also a group of people working on that. So we will be happy to welcome you if you want to visit. For us, this is a very particular setting, because we have more meetings with the government, at ministerial level, but it's also good to meet with the civil society, and there are no many opportunities for that. So you are welcome to come to Rome. We are at Circo Massimo in the center of Rome, so please come, because there are also a lot of events. We are going to have the World Food Forum in October in Rome, so that can be also very interesting for you to go there and see what you know about, and to learn about different initiatives. I think it's open to everyone, so you can. It's a very interesting. It's the whole week on the 16th of October, and please come, because it can be interesting for you also. Okay. Thank you.
For me, it's also a question. For instance, in Europe, we have lots of problems to seeding the ground.
Sorry?
In Europe, we have a big problem with seeding the ground into the So the water after the raining, it can go down in the groundwater.
There is no infiltration.
It fills the basins under the ground. And in South America, they made an ancient system. When the river is going down, and in the rain time it's going too much water inside, so they have a line like a canal channel. They put it along the mountains to a place what they in this time, maybe 500, 600, 800 years ago, they know there as a ground. It absorbed a lot of water, and so they, with the channels they bring the more water in the raining time in the mountains, and after some months it's going down where it's a new spring. They use it this way. And I think in Europe we need also the same system, because we have near the rivers, we have often the places there was traditionally or ancient time there was used when it's too many rain, so it's flooding the system, and then it's going slowly down and refills the water system. But the problem is how we can convince agriculture to do this, because often they are used for the agriculture as part of ground. And we have seen also now with a Green Deal that the agriculture made like a war. And they changed the argument because big problem is big companies culture. And the small companies, they can use maybe also this system, they don't get enough help. How we can
No, I think it's I mean, this is all. I fully agree, and it's a way of putting all these people together to talk and see, what are the issues, and this is what we try. I mean, I always say that the most important task that FAO has is a neutral forum. So to bring all these, the farmers with the urban planners, with the with the big companies also, because the big companies now, the private sector has also a main role to play on the water resources, right? So we need also to put all these people together and try to look for more integrated solutions. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because even myself, that I work in water, and water, you have water for agriculture, water for energy, water for industries, and to bring all these people together and talk is very difficult, but it needs to be.
Also, you have one department, water for energy, water for agriculture, and you work in the water of agriculture.
Yes,
Water for health.
Water for drinking water, for municipal services.
And more?
For energy, municipal, industry, environment. Environment is very important. We need to now we call it like ecological flows, and you need to maintain. I mean, you cannot extract all water, so you need to keep a certain level for the species to survive. And we have seen many problems in Spain, for instance, in Murcia. In Doñana also. These conflicts that with water scarcity are emerging between the farmers, which are a very traditional and very conservative sector, with the environment and the cities also. So we need to talk all these.
Yes.
Otherwise, the problem will not be solved.
And what do you think about the demonstration that happened recently? He was highlighting this question of the farmers who started to demonstrate and complain. Were those issues raised by farmers or by companies? And what was the percentage of the industry of pesticidi also?
I don't know exactly. But what I can tell you is that agriculture needs to change, because and it's possible to produce in another way. Have you seen that extracts almost of water? It's also a main source of pollution. But then food is also a strategic sector because we need to eat, and we need to eat healthy foods, right? So, I mean, you have everything in the agricultural sector because you have the small producers or the organic producers. So you have all types of agriculture in the big sector. But it's true that the more noisy are these ones that are the big farmers. But it's a change that, as all changes, need time, and they think they cannot survive with the new regulation. But I'm sure there is a lot of technology and a lot of know-how, and we will see in Europe. Because the mentality is changing also of the society. Because all the changes, I think, come from the society. If we ask for a more healthy food, which is not grown with a lot of pesticides, they will change the way they produce.
They use agriculture, because it's also a question how it's used, or which way it's used the water. Because the traditional way you put it with spraying, sparkling, with drops and so on, and it lost a lot of water. And there are also the new ways with pipes, with some holes inside and so on. It needs also investment.
That needs is money, but I mean there are also, because we should not forget that if the water is not polluted, even if you use in Valencia, for instance, they use the surface water with. it seems that the water is lost, but the water, if it's not polluted, is infiltrated and it reaches the groundwater. So it's also, the water is never lost if it's not polluted. It always goes in the cycle, and we need to think as the water as a cycle. But I mean, there are many solutions now. It's just to change the mentality. And as I said, I think if we want another model of agriculture and food, it's from the civil society. Of course, it's not the same Europe or North America than the developing countries in which they have hunger and malnutrition, right? It's a completely different problem. Yeah. Well, he was also asking.
Yeah, like which kind of agricultural food is like the most water intensive?
Yeah.
Like which kind?
So yeah, for instance, in the United States, now you have all the corn production, the corn belt. So very intensive. So when you have, it depends also on the area, because you have areas in which there is a lot of rain, so you don't need much water for irrigation. So let's say in the southern Europe, North Africa, which they have all horticulture, barley, also consume as barley. No, how do you say? What the animals eat? I don't have now the name. I mean, there are.
Soy?
No, it's not soy. It's lucerne in French. Alfalfa. Alfalfa. Also, so you see in North Africa, they have like a very large areas of alfalfa in which they irrigate because they don't have water. So it's also good to differentiate between the areas in which food is grown with irrigation and other areas which have a lot of rain, which you don't need such an irrigation. But I mean, it's mainly maize demands a lot of water, aguacate now, avocado, that now is very, every society is demanding, and still is grown now in the Mediterranean area, which has a lot of problems. So it's easily, it's now farmers are changing, like traditional oranges, for instance, in Valencia, they are changing for avocado because it's more profitable, but requires more water. And this is not sustainable, but it's still the profit which marks.
But because you mentioned corn, but all the corn which is like on the fields, like it's not for like human consumption, right?
It's for animal consumption.
Yeah.
Well, this is why we say that meat is because there is also another